Hello everyone, this is Jeremy and welcome to episode 28 of Project Ozone 3. So yesterday we left off a little abruptly, sorry about that, on Mars. We were still trying to get our tier 3 rocket schematic, but today let's take a step back and look at why we're trying to do that. So I like to use my JEI bookmarks up here kind of as like a task list, right? And one thing I've had on the task list for a while is this dimension builder. But I think now that we have our circuits or our capacitors automated, we can build one. Let's confirm that. Wow, 62,000 bytes. That barely fits on our crafting CPU. Curious how many circuits we're looking at. Just under 2,000 enriched alloy. Yikes. Alright, well, I mean, since we can build it, let's start it up. I expect this will take it a minute. You know, it's quite a bit of crafting. So, while that crafts, the initial reason I wanted to build it, however, I don't even really need it anymore. It was for the ores for mystical agriculture, right? But apparently we just had enough ingots from our big brother farm back here. However, I think there are, soon I'll have some uses for it, but I think I'm just going to set it aside for now. But it is good to have. It is something we'll definitely want, and we may even want more than one of later. But anyways, the next significant goal I want to go for is the Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, this is a recipe. So don't be too intimidated by this recipe. A lot of it is its bark is worse than its bite, right? You know, leaves, check. Redstone, check. So there's only a few items in here that are tricky. Let's see. This is fine. Creative Essence takes a crux, but I think one of these is easy. Not this one. This one? Nope, that's the same one. Yeah, Dragon Egg Crux is very easy. Okay. So we can make Creative Essence. Going down this list, Tier 6 Bomb Chunk, that's just Insanium, fine. We have to kill the Antlion from Erebus a handful more times. Thorium, Plastic, Black Hole Talisman. We can do that. Next row we have, let's see, so this just comes from killing the Hydra. If we have more, or if we need more, we can just kill the Hydra a couple more times. This is a pretty simple crafting recipe. Alright, so we need 4 Oblivion Catalysts, but that just means doing the ritual 4 times. The Gas Queen's Tears. This is our first thing, I think, that we don't have yet. So I'll just mark it, and we'll see what exactly it takes to get some of these things later. Highly enriched Californium 251 oxide fuel, Wyvern core. Actually, I think Wyvern core is quite simple, right? Yeah, this ultimate control circuits in draconic cores. So we can actually make this right now. I can take that off the list. Well, what is advanced circuit? It's a lot of stuff, but we get mob drops, graphite dust and explosion. Okay. Yeah, I actually think we can make this now, so I can take that off the list. And then I think the bottom half is just a mirror of the top half. So, of these items, we just need 2. Gas Queen's Tears. Wow, we're a lot closer than I thought. Gas Queen's Tears and Highly Enriched Californium. So I think to fight the Gas Queen, we need an item. Let me see what it is. Alright, I, for the life of me, couldn't find documentation on how to summon the Gas Queen. So I figure instead of looking for how to do it, let's just try it. Somewhere in the nether, they're not terribly rare. Typically they spawn in the roof, are these Ghast, like, urns, I guess? It'll make more sense when I find one. So right now I'm just looking at, here's one. You're looking for one of these structures. And in it, there is a gas, there are multiple gas spawners. They're nice if you, apparently you can't break the spawner. Oh no, there it goes, it's just lagging. It's nice if you need gas for whatever reason, you can just stay here and let the spawner spawn them. Anyways, if you break into it though, inside I expect there is a urn. I thought there were 4 gas spawners in each of these, and there's some loot chests, but doesn't look like there's anything of particular interest in here. Alright, anyways, I think we have to put something in this urn. and it's not another star or gas tier. I thought there was like a tooltip when you clicked it. I recall it's a potion of the lost or something, but I see no potion of the lost. Alright, well, I guess I'm back to searching for it because I don't have any other clues. Alright. Since the beginning, when I started talking about how I didn't know what to do, I'm sure half of you that were like, Jimmy, just read the stupid quest book. It tells you exactly what to do. So we need a potion of sorrow, not a potion of the lost, and a gas tier. So my memory was like only kind of wrong. Anyways, let's see what it takes to make that potion of sorrow. Which one? I presume just a normal one will do. So raw gas meat. Okay, that doesn't look that bad. Do I have raw gas meat? Looks like I shouldn't have broken that gas spawner yet, huh? Alright, well, I guess I have to go... I'll mark this one and then go find another gas to get some meat off of. So, quick aside, I saw that we're going to need more than just a little bit of raw gas tiers because it is a component in Cosmic Meatballs, which is, you know, one of these, like, pretty late game recipes. But it doesn't, you know, none of this has a EMC value, so we're just going to have to craft them from scratch. So to deal with that, I'm just making a woot farm, and it produces raw gas meat at a, you know, reasonably low percent, I think, but I can't actually see the percentage. Up with a Shift O, Control O, hides JEI. Still can't see the percent. Whatever. It gives raw gas meat. That's all I care about. I'm surprised we managed to go so long without having to do potion brewing, and I kind of forgot how slow vanilla potion brewing is. But thankfully, this is only a two-step potion, and hopefully we only have to do it once, because after one time I'll just make a spawner for the Blaze Queen. Or maybe I'll just swap it 4 times, right? Well, let's see how many of these I need eventually. Yeah, I only need 4 to make a Philosopher's Stone, so I don't need to go overboard. Anyways, once we have these potions, I think we should be ready to go back and summon the Blaze Queen. Or, sorry, the Gas Queen. We made it back. So I think all we have to do then is put the 2 items inside. Right-click that, and it summons a boss. Hey, there we go. Alright, so let me make sure I swab it. He did not like me hitting him. 3 and 4 swabs. And I may as well get one of these as well. So could you stop hitting me? I'm just trying to, you know, clone you here, alright? Alright, let's kill these before they kill my meat. Also, they're really loud. Okay, so where'd the loot drop? Down here somewhere, right? And there it is. 1 gas queen tears. So now that we have our DNA swabs, I'm gonna go ahead and turn them into the spawn eggs. The reason I'm hesitant to use the ender shard. Oh, apparently we didn't even count the kill we got. Whatever. The reason I'm hesitant to turn this, even if I could, into a controller, is that when you train Woot to, you know, start killing a mob, it goes ahead and kills 500 copies of it to, like, learn the loot table, but that also causes the, like, number of bosses killed scaling multiplier to go up by 500, which, you know, that's the reason why with 50 hearts, there's still some mobs that, you know, hit me for 30 hearts despite having resistance and very good armor. So anyways, yeah, I'm just gonna go, I guess I only needed 3 of these, but I'm gonna go turn these into spawn eggs and then we can go kill a couple more. Hey chicken. Bye chicken. Hi chicken. Bye chicken. Hi chicken. And I'm short a chicken. Alright, so let's spawn these in. Now let's do one at a time. Oh my god, they're so loud. All right, well, you get the picture. We just have to do this a couple more times to get the rest of the Ghast tiers that we need. All right, 4 Ghast Queen's tiers. So the only other thing left, let's see, we can get rid of this, is to make californium, highly enriched californium 251 oxide. Actually, I recall there's one more thing here, the red gem. So we have to get to tier 5 planets. But I think this is the one that this step takes a long, or some amount anyways, of time. So let's work on it first, and then we can get our Galacticraft progress while we wait for the Nuclearcraft reactor. So let's see, to make oxide fuels, you start with the normal fuel, you pump oxygen into it, all right? I'd like to work with normal fuels because at least when I'm not trying to generate power with Nuclearcraft, because the normal fuels generate less heat. And my understanding is that this pack's Nuclearcraft configuration has it such that there is significantly increased power generation, like to the order where you are producing millions of RF a tick with Nuclearcraft. I'm literally going to throw it all in a trash can because I don't care for the power. All I want is the fuels. So I will try to figure out what order we are supposed to run these fuels in to get up to highly enriched californium. I had a spreadsheet that I used for OmniFactory, and I'm not sure if the fuels have the same ratios here. But if so, I'll probably use the same fuel mix I use in OmniFactory. So yeah, let me get back to you on that. All right, so this segment's going to get a little bit nitty gritty, so please bear with me. I went through all of the various Nuclearcraft fuels, and I went to see which ones do we actually need, either now or at some point in the future. And I came to the conclusion that the answer is not much. We need californium 251 fuel for the Philosopher's Stone, and we'll eventually need highly enriched berkelium 248 fuel for awakened draconium seeds. That's it. Everything else is just, the road to get there. So I found a chain of reactions we can do that'll get us specifically to these two. So this is unlike an OmniFactory where we needed some of basically everything on along the way. We wanted some excess. That's no longer the case. So to produce californium 251, highly enriched californium 251, we need a 4-to-5 ratio of 251 to 252, which means if we, process that down from highly enriched californium or highly enriched curium 247 fuel, we get a 1-to-1 ratio, which is close enough to 4-to-5. We also happen to get berkelium 248, which we need for this fuel from this reaction. Awesome. So we want to be doing highly enriched californium 247 fuel. To process that, we get that from this. That's another, again, 4-to-5 ratio of curium 247 to 246. I think I may have been saying the wrong name earlier. Anyways, a 4-to-5 ratio of curium 247 to 246 comes from, I think it's this one. Yeah. A 1-to-1, again, 1-to-1 close enough to 4-to-5 of highly enriched plutonium 241 fuel. And this doesn't produce anything else useful. So this comes from highly enriched plutonium 241 fuel, which again is a 4-to-5 ratio of plutonium 241 to plutonium 242. So we'll get our plutonium 241 from, which one was I planning? Mostly, I think we'll be getting plutonium 241 from lowly enriched uranium 235. So one reaction of it produces, 8 tiny clumps. However, we will also be running lowly enriched uranium 233 because that produces the plutonium 242 we need for the reaction. So we will be doing both of these fuels. Uranium 235 comes from, the unburnt fuel. It's a 1-to-8 ratio of 235 to 238. 235 comes from, if we just take uranium or yellorium, process it through an isotope separator, we get just about close enough, anyways, the right ratio of. Well, I guess it's not quite, but anyways, we get some 235 and a lot of 238, and we'll end up throwing most of the excess 238 away. As for where we get the uranium 233 from, let's see, we have to back up a bit. So uranium 233, this fuel, whoopsies, comes from a 1 to 8 ratio of 233 to 238. So we have already seen where we get our 238. The uranium 233 comes from thorium fuel or TBU fuel. So this produces 16 tiny clumps of uranium 233 and a little bit of 235. TBU fuel again is thorium. It's made from thorium 233 or 232, which comes from a isotope separator on thorium ingots. And since I don't need the oxide version, here, let me switch over to the non-oxide version. If I can figure out how to do that. Whatever. Basically, we can take thorium, not oxide, but just thorium, and turn it into thorium 233 and burn that. So to do that, we'll first of all need thorium seeds, because that'll be the source of our thorium, and a number of nuclear reactors. I think, how many was that total? 1, 2, 3, 5 nuclear reactors? Because some of these run very hot, and some of these fuels run very hot and some run very cold, I think we'll need a couple different reactor designs, but that might be getting ahead of myself. Let's start by making our thorium seeds. Alright, so while our thorium seeds grow, let's start laying out the rest of the infrastructure. Step 1 is to take yellorium and turn it into uranium, its base isotopes. Right, so if we take uranium ingots, put them through, I believe it was a isotope separator, we get the uranium isotope. So that's step 1. Fuel processing, step 1 happens here. So again, yellorium and thorium, both of these come from mystical agriculture, get processed into their Nuclearcraft variants. Now after that, now that we're here, I think the next step is to actually build the reactors. So looking at the fuels, the first step, right, the uranium 235 and TBU fuel, both are pretty low heat generation. In fact, as well as uranium 233. These three fuels are, 70 to 200, 240 heat, whereas afterwards we switch to some very high heat generation fuels, 1600, almost 1700 and almost 1300. So in light of that, I'm thinking we'll use a highly, burn time efficient reactor for these. And for these, we'll use a much more heat, efficient reactor so that the reactor is online more often. So I think the design that I used in my OmniFactory series, which I'll put a description to the designer for that fuel or for the nuclear design, is very suitable for these low heat fuels. So we'll start with a couple copies of that. So the low heat reactor design I'm going for is going to be pretty simple. It's a 7x7 interior, although scalable, up or down as you like. If you want it to be bigger or smaller, we can accommodate that. But the interior is 7x7, and then the interior size is 7x7. Exterior size is 9x9, and let's see, it just is alternating coolers and cells. So you get this grid pattern where the rule is each cooler must be touching 2 reactor cells. So, when you do it like this, right, the ones in the corner are touching exactly 2, and then the ones in the center can be more than 2, and that's fine. So you just continue this grid pattern. The layer above it, it looks like this. And I'm sure you get the idea now. And this continues, you can make it as wide as you like, as tall as you like, but I'm just going to do 7x7 interior. So I'm going to fill this out, and then we can see the amount of heat it generates in practice. From what I've read, this design will handle fuels up to 160 heat per tick with 100% uptime. So maybe some of these fuels it'll need, the safety loop and some downtime. But let's build it and test it out before we, go too crazy with the theoreticals here. The copy paste gadget can really help you in building this thing much more quickly. So it's, you build 2 layers and then you can paste it twice, and you still have to build the top layer, I guess, but it's still much quicker than building all 7 layers, right? All that's left is to put on the sidewalls. Initially, I think I was going to make them transparent, but I think it looks ugly enough as it is. Maybe it's better to cover it up. It might also be, I might get a quarter of a frame rate better by not having to look at the inside. Yeah, let's just use the solid walls. And all that's left is to place down our controller, and that should form the multi-block. So 171 cells. Let's grab some fuel. I guess we have to make some fuel and see how it works. So the lowest energy fuel we have is TBU. Let's try that out first. So I expect this will produce not a lot of power and not a lot of heat. And let's get a trash can. Does power just come out of the controller? I believe it does. So we're just going to void all the power, and it needs a redstone signal to run. Alright, so good news. When running TBU fuel, it is heat negative and produces 300k RF per tick that we are immediately throwing away. Let's try uranium fuel. Let's see. Well, let's let that run to completion. So with uranium fuel, I think because it produces more than double the heat, I think it will be heat positive. So let's just be ready to... Okay, no, thankfully it's still heat negative. Strangely enough, it produces a lot less power too. That's weird. Oh no, there's a K here. This is producing 65 million RF a tick, or 61 million. That's a lot of power to throw away. I mean, I have no use for it, so I may as well keep throwing it away, right? But we are throwing away 61.5 million RF a tick while still being heat negative. Perfect. So this design can handle these two. Then I expect it might be able to even handle this at heat negative, which is awesome. If it's heat negative, we don't need a safety loop. We can just let it run. Cool. So I'm going to copy this design 3 times because we'll have one running TBU fuel, one running 235, and then we'll have another one running 233. All right, here we have it. 3 reactors. A quick tip is that reactors are allowed to... Oopsies. I'm missing a casing somewhere, apparently. At least I believe reactors are allowed to share casings. Maybe I'm mistaken about that. I was told that they were. Let's see where does it say it's missing a case? 3986-160. I forgot the number already. 3986-160. Missing a case underneath? Oh! I know what happened. I made these with the copy paste tool, and there was a torch there. Ha! Alright. Let's fix that. Okay, but I was like 90% sure they were allowed to share casings, except I didn't check, and then that error came up. Anyways, I suspect this reactor has the same problem then. Yeah, there was still a torch there. Alright, so now that that's fixed, we should be able to observe that the reactors form, and as I was mentioning, they're allowed to share sides. So, cool. So, my plan is to have 1 reactor per fuel, and this first one will be running TBU fuel, so we just have to run some wire. I'll set the conduits later, but basically conduits pulls in TBU fuel from the ME interface, and then the spent fuels get get placed back into the into the interface to be consumed in the ME system. So north side, insert brown, extract blue, and we should have that. I'll set up the same for this reactor, except this one's doing LEU-235, and this last one will be doing lowly enriched uranium-233, but we can't do that yet until we've processed some of our fuel. So this is a fuel reprocessor. Essentially, it takes the spent fuels and turns them into, the next tier of ingredients. So spent fuels get sent here via an export bus, and then they get reprocessed and then put back in the ME system. So now we should have some, let's see, uranium-233. Now that we have this, let's set the recipe for lowly enriched uranium-233 fuel, and then we can stick that into the last reactor. Wow, low enriched uranium-233 produces even more energy that we just throw away. 74 million RF a tick. Still heat negative. 74 million RF a tick. Let's add the lowly enriched uranium to the export bus here, which should get it sent into here, which will get it reprocessed. This is a bit slower than I expected. Why is that? Oh, maybe it's not. We are having trouble providing this machine with enough power. I switched all my cables out for heavy aluminum wire from Nuclearcraft because my understanding is that it is infinite throughput. So it's basically like the whatever it's called, cryo stabilized flux duct, except much cheaper and much, I don't know. I find this kind of ugly, so much more simple, but maybe it isn't infinite throughput. Well, whatever. Either way, all of our spent fuels are being reprocessed now, and I think we're ready for the next two reactors, the the high heat ones. So, right, these three, because they are all negative heat, we don't have to worry about them melting down. It's literally impossible for them to melt down while running these fuels. But the high heat ones are a bit more complicated because the heat generation, the net heat, will be positive, which means that if we ever fill up the heat bar, the reactor melts down. One of the components our hot reactor needs is liquid helium to help cool it. So that's gathered by, so you start with a helium collector that turns gaseous helium, or that collects gaseous helium, put it into a supercooler, which slowly turns gaseous helium into liquid helium. I think I need 24 buckets of this per reactor, so I need 48 buckets of it total. So this, I don't know, 10-20 minutes of processing. These next reactors are also much smaller than their big brothers, and as a result, I think we can cram them into this little space here. So their base footprint is, or their base interior size rather, is I think 3x5 and 9 tall. The bottom layer is iron coolers, and there will be a link to this in the description, if I remember to put it there at least. Gold coolers and water. The other spaces are left blank. Then on top of that, on top of all the iron, are the helium coolers that aren't done yet, so I'll just leave them blank for the time being, and we'll fill them in afterwards. 2 redstone coolers and a reactor cell. On top of that is another layer, just like the bottom layer. So gold. I'm already forgetting what's where. Iron. And the specific layout is based on the requirements of the various coolers. They have to be adjacent to certain things to work. And what's the one in the middle? Is it water or is it lapis? It's water. All right. And then the next layer is a duplicate of, it's basically, now that I look at it, I think it's these 2 layers duplicated until it's 9 tall. So until I get my helium coolers, I can't finish it yet. This is what it looks like fully built up, and all that's left is to put the casing on it, the exterior casing. So the first of the fuels we're going to process in here is highly enriched plutonium-241. I'm hoping that the heat value is negative. And it is. Cool. That means we, again, don't need to worry about it possibly melting down. It is mathematically impossible for it to melt down. It produces 80 kR of a tick, and because there's only 4 fuel cells in here, you see that the fuel burns for a lot longer. In fact, it burns for 3 minutes per fuel tablet, whereas, these fuels, they burn for, 10 seconds per tablet. That has to do both with there being less fuel cells, and it's a smaller reactor overall. So anyways, we can just let this run. I don't have to worry about it melting down, so I just have to hook, this up to the ME system and craft the plutonium-241 fuel. After this has run a few cycles, I'll build our next reactor, which is californium-247. Conveniently, we can build our second reactor because it's a simple copy-paste of the first one. And all that we have to do is fill in the blanks, which is one controller that completes the structure, one lever to turn it on, and an interface to supply it with items. So this one, where did I put the interface? This one will be running highly enriched californium-247, which is also heat negative. Perfect. So again, it's not that much power, 66k a tick. I mean, that's more than we use in our entire base, so I guess it is a lot of power. But 4 to 5 minutes per cell. And the result of this, let's see. The result of this, so when it's done, we get this, is the californium-241 and 242, or 251 and 252 that we need for our the Philosopher stone. So once this is able to run for a few cycles, we really only need 8 tabs of it. Then we can make our Philosopher. Well, we still can't make a Philosopher stone, but it puts us one step closer to it. So that knocks out both the fuel and the Gas Queen tiers. And really, I think that puts us really close. However, I think we're also at the wrapping up point for this episode. So we'll come back next episode and, maybe do a little bit of Galacticraft, a little bit of Abyssalcraft, and with any luck, be able to put together our Philosopher's Stone. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.